We have a special recognition for an honoree who changed the political landscape of our country.
2020 was a milestone year for our Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Legacy Award recipient. To introduce the honoree and present the award, Diane Leopold, Vice President and COO at Dominion Energy.
Thank you. The MLK Legacy Award this year goes to the Honorable L. Douglas Wilder. For most of us, this remarkable man hardly needs an introduction. He has been a towering presence in Virginia and its capital city, Richmond, for most of his life. He was born right here in Richmond, a grandson of slaves who was named after abolitionist Frederick Douglass. He attended segregated schools and then Virginia Union University, graduating with a degree in chemistry. He earned a Bronze Star for heroism in the Korean War, earned a law degree from Howard University, and then became the first African-American state senator in Virginia since Reconstruction. In 1985, he was elected the first African-American lieutenant governor in Virginia, and in 1990, he became the first African-American to be elected governor of any U.S. state. Later, he became the first directly elected mayor of Richmond in 6 decades. Governor Wilder embodies both Dr. King's hopes and his ideals, and he richly deserves recognition for his life of service and accomplishment.
My favorite Dr. King quote, I paraphrase it by saying, when a thing is right, the time is always right. I think he said, the time is always right to do what is right. But it means the same thing to me, and I've tried to practice that throughout my life. Well, we were nearly the same age. I think he was a couple of years older. Our birthdays are pretty much separated by a couple of days. What he believed in impacted me more than his life, because he didn't exist before I did. We were contemporaries. I learned a lot from what he was doing and found it inspiring to what I was trying to do myself. I never wanted to go into politics. I never wanted to go into smiling and grinning and asking for votes and begging for money. And yet, I came to recognize that unless things changed, my life would not change. The lives of others would not change. And people like King and his predecessor, Vernon Johns, who had that church, who was a Virginian, brilliant man, from Virginia Union as well. They believed in demanding what was right and criticizing what was wrong. And I found that I did a lot of that. And when I came back to Richmond to practice law, I didn't like what I saw. I didn't like what I saw from every angle. I didn't like what was taking place with the political groups. They were not demanding, I thought, what was right. They were supporting. Oh, they were lending their votes. But I found we were getting little in return. And so I said, I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to try to do this. And so that's why I said I lost my mind, because it's demanding. If you're going to do what's right for the people, you have to give your time, you have to give your effort. And that means that you sacrifice other things. You sacrifice the things that you would want to do for yourself, for your family. And I did that. Some of them being threatened in school when I opposed the state song, Carry Me Back to Old Virginia. My kids would come back and they were in Mary Munford School or some other school of elementary level. And they were ostracized. People would be upset with them, with their white students. Why? Daddy did something wrong. He did something bad. What did he do? Cross burned in front of my house, and the kinds of things that would go about when people saying, oh, you did that, you'll never be elected to anything else. Why, you said, get rid of that song, Carry Me Back to Old Virginia. The lamentation of a slave saying that he wanted to come back and be reunited with old Massa.
That's where the old darky's heart and long to go. There's where I labored so hard for old Massa.
That song was the state song of Virginia, but it didn't become the state song until 1944, which means this was not back in the Civil War days. This was Virginia's commitment to racism.
In old Virginia, the state where I was born.
Right after the war, the World War, that they said was fought to free all of the people of the world. And so with those kinds of things going on still in my mind, as I got into the state Senate, I said, look, I'm going to stay here for a while, but I'm going to move up and out. When I said I was going to run for lieutenant governor, they said they knew I was crazy. Not here in Virginia. And people said, well, we can maybe fix it so you can be the state party chairman. I said, oh, yeah, you can do that for the next guy, but I'm going to run. And as a result of it, I traveled to every city and every county in Virginia. I took 60 days and said, I'm not going to stop until I go to every one of them. I was campaigning in a place in Southwest Virginia, and I was, obviously this was a time when everybody was speaking about abortion and whether it might be a throwback to it. And I had been advised by a friend of mine who was in the Senate from there, a white fellow, a good friend of mine, and he said, Doug, when you go into these places, you got to go into every shop, because if you go in to stop at a barber shop and don't go to the next one, somebody's going to know about it. If you hit one store and you don't go to the one up the road, the bread man's going to go up and tell them, Wilder's down at that store. These people were expecting you to come there. So I did, went into everyone. He said, when you go there, you have to shake everybody's hand. So I did. And in one store, I was coming out, and it shook everybody's hand, and so somebody said, you didn't shake that man's hand over there. And I said, well, you're right. And I went over, and this guy was sitting on top of this barrel, and he had on bib overalls, the tobacco stains creasing, coming through his mouth, straw hat, red bandana around his neck. I said, hello, sir, I'm Doug Wilder, I'm running for governor. He said, I have something I want to ask you. I said, well, that's why I'm here. He said, I want to talk to you about this abortion. I said, oh my goodness, I could have gotten out of here without talking to this man. And he said, before I could give him, so I was prepared to give him my Jeffersonian response. Government has no right to interfere in the most personal or personal relationships with a woman. And I said, oh, he said, ain't no man's business nowhere, is it? I said, wow, you're right. It convinced me that you couldn't judge people by how they look, how they talk, where they live. And I said, at this late stage in my life, for me to have to be reconnected with recognizing that was a reawakening experience for me.
I, Lawrence Douglas Wilder,
do solemnly swear
that
Today I get letters from people from all over the country. They are inspired by knowing that I had little to start with. They feel that I have accomplished. But what it means to me is that they see that a state that did not permit people to go to school could produce the first black governor in the United States.
we still have the attitude of love.
The step is a question of America recognizing what its history is and making certain that we allocate our resources to doing that. And it's not by steps as such, it's by actions. And so it's one thing to have a holiday for Dr. King once a year. The question is, when are we going to get to the point of recognizing that we're always going to be different in terms of race, we're always going to be different in terms of gender, but we don't have to be different with the way government affects the differences in terms of allocations of money for schools, for education, for health, for housing, for jobs, for employment, for the judiciary. Those things need to be ended tomorrow, if not today. Do it when? Now. What is the problem that we got to wait for?